Hello, everybody. This is the first town hall that we are doing of 2023. We're going to kick these up quite a lot this year. This is a year of execution. Many of you have probably been supporting us from afar or engaging in the community and sort of keeping your eye on the things that have been going on. 2022, 2021, these were years of sort of ideation, and then moving into, we raised some runway to start to build a team and to build a real product. We have focus on a specific product that we've been building. Most of 2022 was really dedicated to kind of quietly building this product that we call Emergence. And now we have Emergence shipped in the first few versions. We've gone through some testing with it. If you were on the last town hall, we did a kind of shallow but deeper dive technically on things. To the people in our community, Pending Reality and Poor Marty, were engaging with us as, two developers that were, kind of building things on their own and seeing the opportunities of where Emergence can be integrated. We wanted to do this and kick the year off specifically with a look at the product on where it is now, but more importantly, like the roadmap forward. And again, this is a year of execution. So we have a new member of the team. He's actually been an investor since the very beginning, but now he's come in to sort of fill in the space that Vincent was in as our community lead, and that's Alistair. So I'm gonna give him the stage for a few minutes to introduce himself.
Thanks, Ryan. To say I'm stoked to be here would be a massive understatement. I've been following the open meta journey since the very beginning, and as well as being very close to Ryan. I just think it's an awesome project that is right there at the kind of the intersection of technology and gaming, filling a void that really needs to be filled, taking away a lot of complexity for it. So really happy to be here. For those of you that don't know me, my background, I've been in the Web3 and crypto space since 2017. I set up what was meant to be a very small event called Blockchain Beginners in London, running monthly. Our first event, we had to turn away over 200 people, and we grew the community to about 3,500, with 500 or 600 coming to each event every month. And I've been fully down the rabbit hole ever since then. Ryan and I met when I was working at Boson Protocol, and then most recently I was at WW Ventures. But throughout that whole period, everything that I was doing was around building and growing communities. So really excited to get hands-on and stuck in here. Outside of work, I am a former professional ice hockey player. I still play when I can in my free time, and an avid skier. I live out in the mountains and like to go out and enjoy snowy nature in the winter. And if you ever want to talk about golf, then hit me up on that front.
So not just our community lead, but a hockey player, a skier, and a mountain man. He lives up in the French side of the Alps. So I'm excited for you guys to all get to know him. There's an article we just dropped in the Telegram of that he wrote about surviving an avalanche last week. So definitely got a lot going on in his life, and we're really glad to have him. He's been such an amazing sort of ally. Like I said, he's been an investor, and he also helped a lot with really quality introductions. So, if you're a part of the last round, you more than likely know Alistair already, and we're really glad to have formally welcomed him onto the team. Alistair, do you want to talk for just a quick second about how you're thinking about this community and, this being an execution year and kind of re-engaging this amazing community that we had built over the last couple of years, and then we'll toss it over to Alicia to get into the thick of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of re-engaging, this year is all about execution, and to do that, we need you guys. So we're going to be first and foremost being as open and transparent with you as possible in terms of where our development's going. Alicia's going to talk a lot more about that during this presentation, but also we want this to be as interactive as possible. Like we want to listen to you, we want you to participate, we want to encourage and empower you to be a key part of our success. So what that looks like will become more apparent over the coming weeks and months, but we really appreciate all of you being here, and we want to really encourage you to stay and to bring your friends along for the ride as well. And outside of that, a big aim of ours is to get as many games developers as possible aware and using Emergence. And again, a lot more will be becoming apparent over the coming weeks and months, but we're really excited about it. We've got many ideas and action plans, and we just need to execute them, and looking forward to getting your guys' feedback.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm just typing into the chat, the town hall chat, if you're here and you're or you're not listening live, and later you watch this, just come into the town hall chat. It's kind of where we have the ongoing thread for these. And again, we're gonna do our best to have consistency with these, at least once a month, and engagement there within. The more people in the community that get involved in these, at the end with the Q&A portion, especially developers who want to start using Emergence, like we will immediately put the spotlight on what you're doing the next month. This is how I want to roll these out, right? Like this should be something that is so intrinsically generated from the heartbeat of the community. And, markets like this can feel really unstable, but success comes from the ability to like operate within this uncertainty. And so this team and this community and this vision, the thing that we've all sort of like come around here to really become passionate about, there's really no need to stop building. There's no need to stop believing in the vision that we had. Like these bull markets can be really exciting with a lot of exuberance. Everybody's getting rich, but the truth is the technology is just as important, if not more important now, in markets where everybody's sort of faith is a bit, scattered. And so, this community wants to be a lighthouse, for people who still really believe in what we're doing and are, maybe struggling to find their place because a lot of these other communities have just sort of disappeared, or the people that make up these communities don't believe so much in what they're doing anymore when the market's down. But this is something based in like, real technology that we've built that we find is important, not only for now, but the next wave that we're all sort of getting ready for. So with that, I will pass it over to Alicia, who you all know leads tech and product for us. She's been working with our engineers, Chris and Agu, who are also here. And they've been doing some really excellent work. So I'm excited for her to share that.
So let's dive in, just make sure everyone hears me.
Yes, I could hear you. All good.
Cool. Okay, we have a lot to cover. So first, going over our schedule for today, we're going to give a very quick recap of what was delivered with the Emergence SDK in 2022. And then we're going to really spend the bulk of our time looking towards what's our product strategy, what do we have planned out, everything for 2023, which is what I know many people have been asking for. I want to make sure this section is where I want to get feedback from you guys in the community. We've got some polls that are going to be added to the chat here, so please vote on some of those polls. But at the end of each product section, I'm going to pause where we show what we have planned next for this area of the product. And we want to get feedback. So this is going to be really open communication. Anything you guys want to ask, please feel free. And then briefly at the end, we'll dive into just some of the news, upcoming events, and then keep things open if we want to keep the conversation going. But to start off, to make sure that we're in this collaborative kind of mode, we have a first poll that we're going to put live. Alistair's going to put this live now. We want to know a bit more about you, your persona, like what do you identify as, whether you're a game developer, an indie dev, a AAA dev, are you an investor, are you a person who's just really excited about Web3? So this poll is going live now in the chat. Please vote, and we're going to have a number of these as we go. So briefly, for those who hopefully are aware, but if you're not aware, the Emergence SDK, we had our first launch of everything last year. Essentially what the Emergence SDK is a really easy on-ramp for any creator or developer to really start leveraging the different opportunities for Web3. We have a various set of products that exist today in the product. One, the ability to have EVM Connect, so that if you integrate Emergence into your virtual game world, any of your users can then scan the QR code easily and connect their wallet. It supports any EVM-based chain today, and we're working towards support towards additional chains as we move forward. Secondly, the second area of focus is personas, and persona is the ability so that your users can create essentially their game identity, and through that identity, have it linked to their wallet and be able to store information like name, description. But I think the most important part that we have today is the ability to set an avatar. Now, our avatar system is where essentially we've built the pipelines, the tools, the smart contracts, so that users can actually have utility with the NFT avatars that they've been buying, or have an interest of owning their own interoperable avatars. What we've built is so very easy workflow, again, where developers can essentially drag and drop kind of the blueprints or prefabs into their game world. And then the user is able to select their game ready avatars, and we do all the back end for you as a developer so that those avatars can be loaded into your game world at runtime, the retargeting, the decentralized storage aspect with IPFS for the avatar, etc. The fourth bit is really our inventory service. In part, when we first launched the SDK, we had some I'd say like basic functionality which was required so that users can read right back to chains, to tokens, etc. But one of the feedback we got from our developers, from many of our developers, was, okay, this is great, but let's say I just want to be able to leverage what's inside a user's wallet. I have no idea what's actually in the user's wallet. There's no way to filter out and say, give me all of your inventory items that's of type avatar or of type weapon. So essentially we built out what we're calling our first proof of concept with the inventory service, so that we can tie dynamic metadata to NFTs and the assets that exist inside users' wallet, allow game developers to filter out and find specific types of assets in their wallet, and be able to read right through dynamic metadata with the inventory service. So this is everything of where we're at today. Looking at kind of the detailed for what everything that we did related to Emergence in 2022. As Ryan mentioned early last year, a year ago, this was about new team members ramping up, focusing on getting a first proof of concept for the Emergence SDK. In March 2022 was when we launched our closed beta, so Emergence 0.1. During our closed beta, we had identified a number of early access developers, developer groups, games, and chains, so that they could specifically use the first version of Emergence and give us feedback. Just some examples: PixelLink, Huxley, Clayton, DNA Block were some of the groups that we had worked with closely to get feedback, as well as syncing very closely with the game engine companies, Epic and Unity. Following all the feedback that we had gathered, we did some deep dive over the summer months to address all of the feedback, do a lot of testing, a lot of documentation and samples, so that we would be able to launch the Emergence 0.2, which was essentially go live with our open beta. So since September, we have been live with Emergence, and that's where we've been able to get really great feedback from some of you and a lot of our developer communities. Since then, we've been doing a lot over the last few months, especially end of 2022, to start planning out to be able to communicate what our roadmap will be for 2023. This has involved getting a lot of feedback from the developers who have been using Emergence. This has involved also doing a number of developer workshops with other big tech companies who are working towards similar things in this space, to doing workshops with investors, to also doing market research. We have done quite a bit to be able to see where should Emergence go in the future, where should we partner with people, and really prioritizing what developers are going to need to be able to continue to utilize Emergence to build open metaverse experiences. So before I dive in, another community poll. Kind of want to know why people are here. There's going to be one to see what's your interest in Emergence. Are you actively already using the Emergence SDK today? Are you a developer who might be wanting to use Emergence and you want to find out a bit more about things? Are you here because you're curious? So Alistair is going to be getting that poll going now. And I am going to dive into what is our plans for 2023.
Just to jump in very quickly, I'm adding the emojis on the second one as we speak. But please vote, please click. We are incredibly interested in your feedback, and these are going to get more and more immersive as well. So please interact. Thank you.
And we have these in the chat, right? Of this, the event.
Yes, they're in the chat of the town hall, in case you're wondering. So if you're on desktop or mobile, I'm not sure, but if you're on desktop, it's in the right hand corner, top right. You'll be able to see the chat in there.
Great, and feel free to ask your questions like in the chat as we go. We've got Chris and Agu and the rest of the team here, so we could live answer things as well. All right, so as we mentioned, we did, our approach was gathering developer feedback, doing a lot of market research, as well as competitive analysis in this space. And everything we're going to show, I guess, in the next few slides is kind of the results of this. While doing all of this research, we wanted to make sure that our strategy for 2023 still very much focuses on what have been our pillars for Emergence. So one, this needs to be an easy on-ramp to Web3. We know that it's still very daunting for a lot of people. So our goal is really make this very simple for you as a developer. Secondly, making sure that we're very much focusing on like what I'm saying, best in class for developer experience. Right now, to get up and started with Emergence, it takes less than 5 minutes. It's really a drag and drop into your game world, but as well with full functionality for you as developers to modify UI, make changes as you need. Thirdly, we really want to continue to encourage interoperability through tools, through standards. We're working closely with the Metaverse Standards Forum as well as others and other companies in this space. We do not want to reinvent the wheel for things. If there are technologies that are out there that we think are really exciting for developers, but that's been completely built by another company, then we want to partner with them. We realize that when we're building for the open metaverse, this takes a number of different people, a number of different companies collaborating together, and not one company that's going to build everything themselves. So our areas of focus of what we're going to be focusing on in 2023, I'll say fits into these three categories. One, expanding our product features and offering. Two, continuing to build out our backend infrastructure. And then three, looking at opportunities so that you as creators, developers, and users can benefit from utilizing Web3 into your games. So the details of what we're going to dive into is one, the avatar system, a lot of feedback, a lot of market research that we got as well in terms of improving the tools for our avatar system, supporting new file types, continuing with our inventory service to build out more functionalities for you, and integrating standards and pushing for standards across the industry. AI, I'll say like this is a huge hot topic right now, I think, for creators, developers, and enthusiasts. We want to see more of what's out there to help leverage partnerships, but as well see what we can build ourselves to help you as creators build for the open metaverse space. For terms of infrastructure, all the feedback we got, we hear you, Unity SDK. This has been something the community has been asking for quite a bit, and news on that front soon. And more support cross-platform. Something from a developer side have been asked to help reduce gas costs when doing transactions on the blockchain. Looking more towards additional decentralization support. And expanding our persona system. And finally, for monetization opportunities, a lot of this falls into different areas of building out a marketplace. And when I say marketplace, I think a lot of people think just OpenSea, but marketplace has a huge opportunity for many different types of things. One thing that we're heavily going to be looking at is how to enable creators and developers through a marketplace SDK, building out additional pipelines so that creators and artists can easily build out interoperable assets, and then be able to have those assets get to be used in any game world, which benefits both the artist creator as well as the developer to think about where, great, you could start using assets and not build them all yourselves. And then looking as well at more of the traditional marketplace side of things, web front end, search engines, and all that jazz. So before I dive into the specifics now for avatars, this is just a video recap for those who haven't seen. This is a little bit how Emergence works today when you drag and drop the Emergence prefab singleton into your game. The user gets to scan their wallet, take a look at what type of avatars they may have in their wallet that's associated to their persona, and then we do all the heavy lifting so that then the game dev can easily have any of those avatars get loaded into your game world. So looking at our plans now regarding the avatar system for 2023. And by the way, we're going to be sharing this. So if you're keen to like come back to this, right, ask us questions, we're going to make sure that we share a version of this with the community. All of these slides are going to be broken down into what do we currently have planned right now and what are we still evaluating. And to stress, the evaluating aspect is something where we've gotten requests from the community or from feedback from investors, other developer communities. Evaluating means that right now we either are looking at how do we collaborate with specific tech companies and or also evaluating the work required to be able to actually execute on these things. So once we go live with our roadmap, we'll have visibility on everything, whether it's in a planning mode or evaluating mode today. So what we do have planned is today with the avatar system, we fully support VRM-based avatars across both Unreal and Unity. But one of the big asks has been support for GLB and GLTF. So that is something that we are actively working on and planning on delivering in the first coming quarters of 2023. In terms of additional supported file types, there are areas, again, where we're evaluating. We've got an ask to see how can we support Ready Player Me based avatars as well as FBX. Another poll is going to go live now. Want to see what type of avatar formats do y'all want to see? And maybe there's others that we don't have on this list. Would love to also see what other types of tools you think might be interesting for avatars. So moving forward in terms of the tools, what we do have planned today that we had gotten feedback from the community about is collections or avatar owners have said, hey, this is great. We've got like regular avatars or we've created a whole collection, but they're not really game ready. How how do we get them into a game ready state? How do we get it so that any of these avatars can be loaded into any game world? So we've been working on a web tool to automate all of this, so that anyone who builds avatars or collections don't need to worry about smart contract minting. They don't need to worry about a lot of kind of like the database and storage side of things. We've been working on a front end to be able to automate all of this for avatars. Second thing that we do have planned is right now discoverability is kind of a big challenge. People want to find avatars that are out there that are interoperable, that they can use, that they may want to like actually associate to their personas. So we're building out kind of the back end, the blockchain back end, to have an avatar indexer that actually does scour kind of all of the blockchain to find potential game ready avatars, and then being able to expose that to users through like search engine, front end marketplace, so that very easy to find for anybody, whether you're a dev or user, to find interoperable avatars that exist on the market. On the tooling side, things that are on our radar, but again, where we need to scope out and see about potential collaborations or partnerships, is one of the requests we got was building out essentially like an avatar customization system, or what we're calling a socket tool. So picture where you've got your interoperable avatar, right? But then maybe you've got some really cool accessories as well. And you want to be able to have kind of this system where you can modify that avatar, be able to associate maybe some of your props, you got a cool hat, you got, you know, maybe updates to your skins, but have that then remint and get stored onto your NFT of your interoperable avatar. So that's something that we are scoping out to see when we can deliver that in 2023. And then an additional one that we're looking towards is how we can support custom animations for avatars. Of course, this is something that we'd have to see, where do game developers want to use this? This is probably going to be an optional tool, because some game devs may want to have their own complete custom animations. But we are looking at how we can potentially utilize things from Mixmo animations and add more custom specifics to developers. So I'll just pause here briefly and see. I can't see the chat. Is there any questions, anything regarding avatars before we move on to inventory?
This question is from Tris. It says, I have a question about the avatar formats for SL-OpenSim. And the question was, that's FBX, right? So Chris, you said you'll look into that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want, essentially the ask is to be able to support SL OpenSim, is that right? No matter what the underlying technology is, I believe, right? I will assume that is yes. So yeah, we'll look into that and see, are they exporting as GLB, GLTF, FBX? We'll see what that backend is, and then be able to get back to you. Cool. Alistair, anything else in there?
Good to see you, Nick. Looking forward to your questions. Would love to have your engagement on this.
Sorry,
that's what I was going to say. No, that's what I was going to say. It's all good.
Cool. All right, next bit, our inventory service. So just to make sure everyone's aware of kind of what we've been doing, I'm going to show this quick video. So here, this was one of our samples. We're here, we get to go in, we see, this is, picture this as like, almost like your shop, maybe inside your game world. And we're able to see kind of some of this dynamic metadata, where there's a section that's showing like accessories, another one showing clothing. But maybe then you want to see, well, what do I actually have inside my inventory? What's tied to my wallet? So here is where all of this UI is provided to the developer. The developer is able to use what we call like our NFT picker UI. They can customize it if they want. But here we're loading in, show me everything that I own that's of type clothing. By the way, I always preface this. This is a bit of an older video. We have definitely improved all of our loading times for this. But here the user is able to see I've got some cool NFT sunglasses. So here I want to load it in, and then we see that the user is able to actually like take that and like load it onto your avatar. Here's another example where it's all right, maybe this is like, I don't know, your weapons room, and there's maybe some wares that are available for purchase. And here the user's like, well, let me check first what kind of weapons I have in my inventory. If I fast forward, we could see he's got a sword. Some of the metadata, dynamic metadata that we're storing inside these NFTs is, for example, like which bone should it get attached to, which hand should it be loaded in, maybe how powerful is that sword. Here's another example where, you know, this could be used as well for NPCs or even other players inside your game, where you can go up to them and say, show me your inventory, and you can potentially, you know, see and go, oh, that one's really interesting. Let me do live minting so that I can actually do the transfer inside of a game world. And this final one here that I think a lot of people tend to forget about with NFTs and inventory is we're seeing a lot of music NFTs come out. So we kind of built this, like, we'll say, interoperable jukebox so that users can actually go in, load up their wallet, and then choose which song they want to actually play. If I unmute
XYZ SN00.
I'll mute it now, but you'll hear some Snoop Dogg that's playing in the background there. So again, all of these things, you know, fully on chain, but we provide the tools so that you can read these things in, write back to them, do some trades in game. Everything is there for that.
And one of the kind of key things of significance there is, if you don't know, Snoop and Nick Adler actually bought back Death Row Records, and they've transitioned the entire thing to an on-chain label. So there's going to be more and more of these labels that start to distribute their music purely on chain. And so you can imagine, like, in these environments, if you have it in your wallet, it would be like if you had the vinyl, right? If you have the vinyl, you walk into a room, you can play the music. And if you pick that vinyl up and you leave the room, the music stops. So if you're in an environment, in a room, in a game or a world or even a spaceship or something, there's a way to bring that music with you. There might be some scarcity or a unique aspect to that music, and while you're there, you can play it. And so there's a lot of different use cases that can be explored that way.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of what we have planned next, for the inventory service specifically, one, I mentioned on the avatar side that we're building that backend indexer so that we can kind of scour the blockchain and find avatars, right, for you as a developer and a user to see what can be used inside your game world. The exact same thing is applied to our inventory service. We're going to be building out these indexers so that we can actually find more interoperable assets and be able to expose them to you as developers and creators. This is more of a back-end technology thing where I mentioned the Rarible API. Right now, our proof of concept for this is we are using the Rarible API, but once we get our custom indexers, we'll be utilizing that. One, because the Rarible API has been great for proof of concept, but it's limited in terms of which blockchains it actually interacts with, and we want to support a wide number of blockchains. Something related to that we are still evaluating, and we're going to get to this. I'd love to get everyone's feedback once we get to the decentralization section, is seeing our infrastructure of how all of this is stored. Right now, everything that is NFT is obviously fully decentralized on the blockchain. Our dynamic metadata is a bit more centralized through an AWS database, but we want to get more feedback and work with other technology partners to see how we can scale that to become more decentralized and secure. From a feature side, so we just showed that example where we've got some categories that are in there, right? We've got weapons as a category, we've got avatars as a category, we've got clothing. We'd love to add on to those specific category types. And related to that, we're going to be building out templates. So for example, let's say a weapon has a template. There's probably some specifics that you want to be able to read or write back to related to that weapon. Is it something you can pick up? Is it something that you hold in your hand? Which bone should it be linked to? Is there hit points related to the weapon? So we're going to be building out some custom templates, in part also very much working with the Metaverse Standards Forum and other technology partners, while continuing to get feedback from the community to build upon these standards and templates. I'll just mention that Alistair's going to put another poll in there because we'd love to see which of these categories do you guys think would be cool to build out? Are there other types of categories that you would like to see that would be helpful to have templates built around? And also, if you guys want to like start chatting about use cases, right? Like this is very typical kind of gameplay development things that we're trying to build, but gameplay for Web3. So please like start riffing on what some ideas y'all might have here. The final bit to mention from the feature side is when we talk about templates, the templates are really important so that we can have interoperability. So let's say, your user chooses that they really want to bring their sword into any game world, then there needs to be common standards around that. So every game knows the structure for that NFT and the metadata tied to it, and they can read right back to it. But obviously, games are going to want to have their specific game-specific sections that only that game can read to and that only that game can write back to. So that is as well something that we have planned for this next year. So I'll just pause here. And again, I can't see the chat. So any questions, feel free to unmute or ask in the chat.
Yo, what's up, Alicia? It's Nicholas. I got some questions. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so forgive me, I'm still somewhat of a novice intermediate with Unreal, and primarily use it for cinematics, not so much game dev. But question, the avatar and inventory kind of UIs and functionality that you've shown on this presentation, are they available or will they be planned to be available like in Blueprint format? Or is it?
It's all in Blueprint today. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, amazing. That's awesome. And it is, I think I already know this, but it's already available to be used. Yeah.
Yep. I'll skip to what I was going to mention right at the end. All of this, everything I'm mentioning, like those videos, have all been available since the 020 release, which came out in September. But we just released a new version yesterday. Spoiler, I was going to say it in 10 minutes. But 030 just got pushed. We'll add all the release notes, but that's available, and Alistair is going to make sure to post that to the Discord communities right after this. So yes, available.
Awesome.
But also
Good work, y'all. So another question I had as well, and it ties back to what you mentioned in the avatar section. You were talking about building a front end. What sounded to me like, because you mentioned for minting NFTs, will that include minting an NFT that includes whatever metadata is required to meet certain standards so that it can be equipped as a weapon or it can be equipped as a shirt or whatever it is, and like have all the socket functionality and everything like that? Is that what you're talking about as far as the front end for minting goes?
Yeah, so I'll explain that maybe in a few different ways. Like here, when we talk about minting, there's there could be the front end, the web side, right? Like maybe you've created a collection, or hell, you're not even in Web3, but you're like, I got all these dope ass like weapons from like games I've made. Like I want to mint this all as an interoperable weapon. then one use case is you can go to the front end web tool, which that is planned. We are actively working on that. So it's more of a, where are your stuff uploaded, or where is your contract, your API, etc., all that jazz for where that exists today. Then we'll do all the automated stuff to make sure that it utilizes the template, that it gets minted with all that categorization. Like, there's no manual aspect that you'll have to worry about. So that's one. Two, we saw briefly this example of being able to do it inside like a game, right? So that's something as well where we're working towards having these smart contracts so that the inventory service can be used both as a front end kind of web marketplace with all the automation tools, as well as in game. Does that
Okay,
kind of
yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense, and it sounds awesome. And forgive me if this is like too much for this presentation. You can just tell me, we can talk later. But until that is live, currently right now, you can upload an NFT, or let's say mint a GLB file that has all the functionality kind of written into it, I guess, the socket systems, and then mint it, and then upload it into Emergence currently, and then kind of set all the parameters within Emergence or within Unreal. Is that kind of how what's available now?
Yeah, right now we do have full tutorials on this
Okay,
on our website.
nice.
We show the manual process of how, like in the example for the avatar, here's where you know how to upload to IPFS. Here's the contract to mint it. So we have that back end infrastructure, at least for the avatars, and we're for the inventory. I'll explain to you a bit more like offline, but we have the tutorials as well for how to leverage everything on the inventory service. It's a bit more on that manual side, and we are very aware that not everyone gets things like manual minting and smart contracts. So that's where we're building these tools to automate it, right? Like for us, it's alleviate the UX where you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. So
100%. Cool. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yep. Any others? Alistair?
So I was trying to unmute my screen rather than my microphone. No other questions right now. But if you do have them, please pop them in the chat and we can circle back.
Cool. I'm going to move on. Question at a time, though some of these are going to be quicker sections. Okay. AI. I mentioned at the beginning, this is like a buzz thing right now, right? We're seeing so many tools that are out there, from Mid-Journey, Dolly, Lenza for avatars, Anything World, I think, is doing some really dope things there. Right now, you'll see that we are just in the evaluation phase here. We are speaking to a number of companies to see where can we integrate, right? Like collaborate together so that we can provide other people's tools through Emergence or vice versa. But we'd love to see from the community here, like, what are you excited about? For you as a builder, what do you want to see for AI? So have another poll here, but also would love to like open this up a bit more to conversations. What would y'all like to see in terms of AI tooling for you as builders? And I can't see anyone, so Alistair, anyone, if you guys want to give some feedback.
So I'm just popping the poll into the chat here.
Cool. Which we can totally come back to this as well, if and keep AI discussions to the end, unless we see any is typing happening right now.
Tris says the procedural generation of textures is something I've seen so far, which is pretty dope.
Yeah. I love the idea of just being able to put in a prompt, right? And then be able to like give those tools so that creators don't need to actually build out textures completely themselves. They could put in some AI prompts and then utilize that for whether it's an avatar, an item, textures in your game world. I think that's a great one.
I think my phone died mid sentence.
I hear you now.
Did you hear what I was saying about the AI?
Nope, none of it.
I have the one thing that has kind of been coming up for me that I'd like to see being built, which I'm sure is already out there in some format. But I think leveraging GPT-3, a conversational system for AI or for NPCs in game,
Yep.
could be really taken to the next level as compared to what's out there right now.
Yeah, 100%. I know GPT chat, right? Or chat GPT, sorry.
Yeah.
Has been, that's probably been the most recent buzz one, that one and Lenza. So I totally agree. Finding ways to leverage that and expose that to creators would be massive. Yeah.
And keep in mind,
100%.
GPT-4 is coming, which is just orders of magnitude better than GPT-3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we should be thinking about that because it's around the corner.
Yeah, 100%. I think really like funneling it into a game system where you can easily set parameters for a certain NPC and kind of give it a little bit of direction and then kind of set it on its way. So it has all the functionality of Chat GPT, but has a little bit of guidelines there to really play a certain role that you want to give it,
Yeah, and I think that comes back almost to the template stuff, right? Like right now, we're very much looking towards templates and standards for assets. But assets can equally mean narrative moments, conversations, behaviors for AIs. So I think there's a massive amount of opportunity of really building upon like the template standards and integrating different types of technologies for that. Cool. In question of time, I'm going to try and move forward. I know we didn't start this until about 25 minutes in, so it's not my fault, guys. But I'll keep going forward. Platforms. By the way, let's get this poll in while I'm chatting. I want to see from the community, which engines are you building for? Which engines do you want to see? Which platforms for development are you targeting to build for? Like, are you building experiences that are desktop, like PC? Are you building desktop for Mac? Are you not interested in desktop and do you want to really build things for web or for mobile, VR, AR, Linux, etc.? Anything else? Like, Alistair's going to get that poll going because this is deeply going to help influence, especially as we get more feedback in terms of prioritizing things for all y'all. So first bit, our plans for 2023 on the engine side, continued support for Unreal. Like I already kind of spoiled, 030 just came out yesterday. We'll get that over to everyone, but we're continuing on that front. Great news because we've had so many requests and people going, but when is Unity coming? Unity officially, we are going to be launching this in February. I wish I had time to integrate the video. Maybe I could even swap over at the end. I just don't want to kill the prez. I'll show y'all. It is all working in Unity finally at this point, and it is great because from a developer experience, it is literally where you'll just have to drag and drop a couple prefabs to get things going. Very developer friendly. Where we are at today is we're focusing on getting all the documentation updated for y'all. We've got sample projects. Unity is here. We are literally just in the final debug and documentation stages. Additionally, making sure that we get these SDKs up on the different asset stores, right? So that if you want to refer, I don't know, Emergence to a friend or whomever, then there's really quick discoverability of being able to go to the different engine asset stores. Specifically, the Unreal store, the Epic Games store. We're going to be getting up there very soon, and more news on the other fronts in the coming month. In terms of platform build that we support, today we fully support desktop for Unreal and Unity, so desktop builds for both of those engines. Mac is going to be ready very soon. We have been building out this, we're testing it, we've got a few things left, but Mac is coming soon for you as a development platform. Another one that we have prioritized that we're working on next, once we get this first launch of Unity going, is web, and specifically web for Unity with WebGL. We're seeing a lot of developers move towards this for accessibility reasons. So we are actively, this is planned, we'll be working on this. In terms of evaluating, and I know Chris is going to be like, that's not completely true. But in terms of evaluating, we've got mobile support for iOS and Android, Linux, and VR and AR. Right now, we want to get more feedback from the community. Mobile, I will say, is somewhere in this between line based on some of the things that we are working on right now for infrastructure. It's possible we say, hey, mobile is supported very, very soon. But we are also very aware of right now some of the restrictions with the app stores of pushing applications that write back to the blockchain. So this is still where we need to see how much effort we put in for mobile, but we will be getting a first version of this out. But we are just aware of the app store limitations with mobile on blockchain today. Now, in terms of the infrastructure updates, our backend EVM server, originally we built it to be all local through an EXE. We have done a lot of work in the backend to shift this towards a cloud-based EVM solution. I will say this is pretty much almost ready to go. We are going to have this available soon. What that changes for you from a developer's perspective is really not much. Same thing as a user side. It's something, though, that is greatly going to help us, and I guess you as well as a developer, for better cross-platform communication. And then we equally have planned to build out a C++ integration library for our EVM server. This does not exist at all on the Unreal store. There are versions from Ethereum that exist that is just for web and Unity to a certain extent, but there's nothing that is a full C++ integration for Unreal. So we are going to be working on that soon, as well as a custom C# integration library that does leverage Ethereum. So I'll just pause there if there are questions about this.
The polls are also live in the chat.
Feel free to just cut in if you have a question. Just make sure you unmute.
I wish there was a way where I could be in presentation mode full screen and see the chat, but I do not have multiple screens. Darn
You could
it.
use your phone.
Yeah, but then I would echo back. Tried it for a second before and I was like, oh crap.
I mean, just pull up the town hall chat on your phone.
Yeah, true. Okay, if we don't, because I'm hoping this is relatively straightforward, I will move on. Cool. All right, big core changes that I'll say I'm excited for on this. One, the way that we've kind of designed Emergence as this first pass is, let's say you're reading, well, specifically writing back to NFTs, writing back to your specific chains, tokens, etc. Anything that is writing related. Right now, the way we've done this as a first pass is where, you know, obviously if you're going to write back to Polygon, there's gas fees. Gas fees are a bit lower. Let's say you're writing back to like Ethereum, then you'd be like, holy crap, gas fees can get like very expensive on that front. So kind of that one-to-one transactions approval can be a little bit cumbersome, and gas fees can definitely go up on that, and that's not good. again, for users who may be new to the Web3 space, we want to make this as seamless and easy for them as possible. So we actively have planned and we'll be diving into a number of things to, one, greatly decrease gas fees for developers and users. And then two, also build out some functionalities so that we kind of leverage things like lazy minting, lazy transactions, where potentially the developer or user can choose when do they want to kind of do like some batch processing. The batch transaction side, all of this one would mean that then we get to put in things like either where we control, like after a certain amount of time, like let's process all these transactions as one, which essentially would mean one gas fee instead of gas fees for every individual transaction. But it also greatly helps then for the developer to potentially control when they want to call, like writing back to the blockchain. You could almost think of like games where there's a save state, right? Where if the game was continuously doing save, this could like, there's performance hits with some of this stuff. So like the game dev actually chooses when they'll do periodic saves or put it into the user's hands with like kind of a save state. So we think this is going to be a really big one for users, as well as just really helping to alleviate developers, but less gas fees for the win. Second section let's dive into is talking a bit about decentralization. And we're going to put another poll in here to see what's the importance of decentralization for you. I'll say that we've gotten feedback that greatly ranges from the people that we speak to. We've had a number of game developers say, well, we want to get into Web3. So let's, we want to make sure we read right to things that are NFTs that are already on the blockchain, but putting everything on the blockchain that might impact performance, game devs have basically told us now we want to go for like a hybrid approach. And then there's kind of the very Web3, like decentralization is key, who have given us kind of the opposite side of feedback, saying everything needs to be on chain. I will pay for all the gas fees. I don't want anything to be on a centralized database. So right now, where we are at with all of this is we are still evaluating our approach, and our plans is to make sure that we can communicate our plans to you, the community, and the developers. But we are greatly looking at collaborating and communicating to a number of different tech partners. Why do I bring this up? Reason is there's a lot of new technologies that are starting to be built, some that are on the market, where there's decentralized databases that are being built out that have kind of access gating to it. So it kind of comes back to, like, let's say you're a game and you want to write back to your dynamic metadata, but you want to write back to the section that is just for your game. There needs to be some type of access checks around that, right? You don't want anyone to be able to write back to that. Where right now, things like the blockchain are very completely open. Of course, the user has to sign it, validate it, etc. But all that information is public. So we want to see, like, is there potential other solutions, technologies? We know there's a lot of chains that are building new technologies for looking towards decentralized database solutions with better security that is very focused towards gamers and metaverse experiences. So we're trying to gauge some more feedback to see who do we partner with. And there's a good chance we're going to partner with a number of different technologies, but that's to give you a bit of context. Another solution we are looking at that could be more in the short term is still continuing to use things like IPFS storage, but where we consider it a bit more like the vault, so that then there's kind of like a client download, which would then allow you to kind of, have your persona, but it would work whether you're on mobile, if you're on a VR, or on desktop, etc. But a solution that's kind of a bit more of this hybrid kind of it is decentralized, but a solution to get us more towards decentralization. But like I said, right now, it's very much we're evaluating this. We know that this is very important to some people, but we want to roll out a plan where, again, we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're leveraging and working with different technology partners. So I'll pause there. Again, if there's questions, feedback.
As always, the poll is live, and if you have any questions, just unmute and please ask away.
Great. Gonna move on. Almost there, everyone. Personas. So we saw the personas at the beginning where you can create your persona, you could add all of your information, tie your avatar, then be able to like load up your persona into different game worlds. Now, we've had a lot of questions from people saying, well, is your persona like kind of a self-sovereign identity technology? And the clear answer today is no, it isn't. It's a version of that. Think of it more like your Steam ID. Whereas SSID has a lot more tied to it from like government governance policies, standards, to even collaborating with actual governments, and how do we look at this being like global, nationwide, all that jazz. So right now, our strategy is looking towards partnering and collaborating with other tech companies that are very heavily focused on this. We are definitely, as I mentioned in the previous slide, evaluating kind of our next step towards moving towards more decentralization with our persona system that we have today. But our main thing is there are a number of solutions that are out there, people that are just focused on this. And we, again, do not want to be reinventing the wheel. So our goal is we want to work with people on this front. So one, I know we've got another poll here. Actually, is this poll? No, it's more of an open question we're going to put in. But would love to hear kind of some feedback. Like when you think about one, the persona system, as well as self-sovereign identity, what's important to y'all? Like what type of features, or or even like mentioning other like tools, technologies that maybe you've heard of or that you're actively using. What feedback do you all have on this? Because this is very important to us, but our strategy is we want to we've already had some great conversations with some companies, but we want to make sure that we're partnering with the right people on this front. I heard someone's mic come off.
I think that's Hassan. Did you have a question, or are you accidentally not on mute? I think we might have an accidental unmuting. If any questions pop up in the chat, or if you don't want to speak out loud, then please type away and we will answer your questions for you.
Yeah. And again, our goal here is evaluating means that this is a priority for us, but we plan on making sure we can communicate this in our roadmap.
Do you see any possibility to include like SBTs into the personas, soulbound tokens?
That's a great question. This did come up in some of our workshops, especially with investors. That is a great reminder that I did not add this to this slide. Again, this would be part of the evaluating process, looking at how do we support that and what would be the design, and why would that benefit, right, people? So yes, there is a missing thing that I will make sure I add right after this, which is soulbound tokens. Actually, does anyone on the team want to maybe comment a bit more on that? Because I know we've had a number of discussions. Yeah, go Chris.
So
fight it out.
Right. So I can tell you right now that the way that we think about personas is that one wallet has many personas. if we are going to sort of think about having personas individually each have their own set of soulbound tokens, we're going to need to start thinking about it somewhat differently, if that makes sense. Because like currently, a soulbound token is basically an ERC 721 with some extra magic attached to it, which would be effectively associated with all your personas currently. But obviously, if we want to go for that different approach, then we need to think about personas very differently.
Okay, that makes sense because as is you can have multiple personas within Emergence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It might not be the best.
Yeah,
solution.
and then a soulbound just really being non-transferability, like, you know, kind of programmed into that token. These are different, like, in a way, these are style things, right? Like based off the mechanics that you want to do with those. From our architectural perspective, I think both of those would be, you know, fairly straightforward in the sense that those are smart contracts.
I think like as we start moving towards like if we do want to go to SSIDs, we're probably may end up splitting the personas off of being directly tied to a wallet, because some of the sort of use cases of personas are being able to use them as different identities with no with nothing tying them together, so that people can't like trace you between them, right? And if you've got them all tied to the same wallet address, you can obviously they can go, okay, well this one talks to this wallet and this one talks to this wallet, so they're the same person. So it might be that we end up splitting them up somehow, but that's kind of that's completely down to the implementation we end up choosing, I guess.
Yeah, the core tenet of self-sovereign identity would be around, like, you know, DIDs and VCs and the things around that standard. So right now we're built directly, like, you know, the authentication is done through the wallet on Wallet Connect integration. And, you know, when we would make a transition into full SSID, it would align more around DIDs and VCs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Something
did want to add something on DIDs and SSI. We did a lot of research back then about this topic. I really think that the standards being built by the W3C are super interesting.
Yeah.
And there's a really nice library built on top of these standards, especially for Ethereum, which lets you handle DID documents, which are part of the standard, of course. That allows you to authenticate through Ethereum addresses. So if anyone has some development experience, that's a super interesting library to check out over there.
That's great. Yeah, and that's where, again, like, there's nothing specifically planned because we need to evaluate all these potential options moving forward. But I'll be sure that we add in the soulbound tokens as well as the W3C DID aspects with ETH that you just mentioned. Our goal is to make sure that we have a clear strategy, who we'll be working with and what we'll be covering on our ends. So final bit, moving on, is talking about the marketplace. I'll just pause here and say right now the marketplace is huge in terms of opportunities. And when we get back with our roadmap, we're going to definitely be looking at this from a tiered perspective. I think, again, I mentioned this earlier, when people think marketplace, they think, okay, OpenSea. But there's a lot of opportunities for what can be done here, from custom pipelines, helping creators like build assets and, you know, automate things for them that we spoke about, that I believe Nick had asked about. What we do have planned, and I'm a bit reiterating what I mentioned earlier, is making sure that we have this front end for the avatar to help you automate being able to upload or connect collections, so that you can have full interoperable avatars, having like the search engines for this, having the front end EAS for that. So that is planned. What we do have planned is all the indexers to be able to find the interoperable assets of different category types. We'll be building out what we're essentially kind of calling like the marketplace SDK to integrate within Emergence, so that you've got the APIs. We'll be building out all the smart contracts. So really think of this as an in-game marketplace. And as we move forward, a big aspect is, again, say this for probably the 10th time, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So see what other technology partners that we have are doing, how to collaborate, integrate our indexers, integrate our marketplace in-game functionality into maybe existing marketplaces. I think a very important thing, and this is where we'll want to work with the community, is seeing as more and more interoperable assets get built, what's the royalty design that should be built around this? And of course, when we think about building assets, this can be across any number of chains, which is great because Emergence is fully VM compatible. We support and all of the VM compatible chains as well. We are working towards integration for new ones, and we'll probably be one of the first SDKs that support new ones that I cannot say right now for NDA purposes, but when these chains are available, there'll be full support within Emergence. And then, so essentially we need to see what are all the technology partners doing, look at other marketplaces that are out there, plan out exactly what we're going to be doing, being able to communicate our design, scope out the work needed. This is going to be a very long ongoing, and I think we're going to keep elaborating on this. But for now, what we do have planned is making sure that we can build out all of these indexers so that you can search, so that you could leverage this within the games, starting with a web version that is avatar focused, and then look at how do we collaborate and integrate into other marketplaces and technologies that are out there. Questions? This is the last bit. For purpose of time, I'm just going to move forward to the last slide, but please add your questions in the chat and we'll get to it at the end. So this is the last slide, news, upcoming events. This I haven't said yet, but there's a new Emergence website that is going to be launched next week. A lot of this info is going to be there, everything, so that it's very developer SDK focused, understanding all the features, products that exist today with Emergence. Everything is going to be on this new site, so we will be announcing this next week. Emergence 0.3, as I already kind of spoiled earlier, is live. We've got improved developer experience, ways to dynamically load in contracts, blockchains, etc. Like we're essentially making it very easy for you as a creator, as a developer, whether you're using blueprints, whatnot. We're taking away a lot of the potential like user errors you can have, especially like, for example, copying in like an ABI or whatnot. Like we're gonna automate all of this, so you can kind of never mess up when you're gonna read or write back to a smart contract. Bunch of new APIs that are in there based off of feedback that the community gave us. Gorley is there because the original 020 was when it was, I can't even remember anymore the name, the testnet for Ethereum that got deprecated, but now Gorley is our default for testnet. More debugging functionalities, etc. As I said, Unity launching in February, full roadmap, but hopefully this gives a lot of information to you all on what are we actively working on, what are our plans that we are committed to delivering, as well as the areas where we know these are important to you as creators and we're still evaluating them and seeing where do we collaborate, where do we partner, and if we don't do that and we build it ourselves, then what's the resources, so then we can clearly communicate when this would be available. And for those who are around, we want to be out there a lot more this year. Now that we've got a product out on the market, we'll be at GDC, we'll be at the Open Metaverse Conference later this summer, more events to be announced, but we're going to be doing this monthly, and that is it. Thank you, everybody. Questions? I'm going to come back so I can see.
Awesome. Thank you. As you can all see, there's a lot of really great work being done. And there is also a lot more exciting stuff like that's in the pipeline with sites to closing, but we're under NDA right now and can't in this format share it just yet. But it is my hope and belief that by our town hall next month, we will have a bunch of really exciting announcements that we will be able to talk about. If you have any questions, given what you just saw, jump in at any time. Just interrupt me. Other than that, I think we will kind of continue to point people back to these polls that are here in the town hall chat. As much engagement as we can get on this, the better, because your opinions on these things really should be taken into account when we figure out how we're iterating this moving forward. So thanks, Nick. Appreciate you being here. Next time, let's, if we can, let's try to share with your community and, also show them that these tools are for them and the things that you guys have been building, continue to kind of cross-pollinate with each other. But thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Been a pleasure,
Chris,
my friend.
Tris, thank you for your engagement on this and, kind of weighing in. If you want to jump in, if there's anything that we really didn't fully clarify for you, please just interrupt. I see you're typing here, so. Oh, your mic is jacked. Okay, no problem. If you want to just type it in here, that's cool too.
I have an image of a really muscular microphone in my head right now.
Jacked. Yeah.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Ryan was saying, it's amazing to have all of you here. Awesome to meet you all. I look forward to meeting more and more people within this community as the weeks go on, and running these as Ryan says, at least monthly, and kind of really using it as a soundboard to get your feedback to really shape what we're doing here.
Cool. Just curious, Tris, you say you're ready to build. What are you doing? What stack do you use, and what is the current thing that you're focused on? So he's typing. So yeah, I mean, look, this is the first one of the year. A lot of these Discord communities and things, like, have thinned out. A lot of them have disappeared. Ours is still here, and we really want to invest, more time and energy into you guys. Thank you for sticking around. For those of you that are going to watch this after the fact of us going live, which I think is going to be most people, if you're an investor, I hope this was a sufficient update beyond what I published to start the year, which is really more of kind of a recommitment to the terms, to the vision, outlining the culture that we've begun to develop here with this group of people. I hope this goes into more detail on what it is that we've been building. And, your feedback is also equally important, even if you're not a developer, in the sense of, opportunities that you can kind of walk us into, doors you can open for us. Our number one priority this year, and I'll even state it now in January, is, developer traction. We've built this for developers that are using these engines for all different kinds of reasons, and those that are open-minded, that are excited about, Web3's possibilities, and even just exploring what goes beyond what we've discussed here. Getting traction with those developers, continuing to get more distribution channels into more developers, into studios, even into publishers that are thinking this way. It is clear most publishers that have any position have the innovator's dilemma, where they don't necessarily want to embrace this yet, but it's our belief, and it's always been our belief, that this is the right side of where things are going. So we are building now, kind of paddling ahead of the next wave. And that's important work to do, because if we wait till the next wave, and we're not already paddling and doing this work and investing in our community and iterating our technology, then we won't be in the best position that we can be in. So, Tris, you say that you're a JavaScript developer building some cloud-based stuff and starting to work in Unity. Been an open simulator dev for 10 years. Okay, cool. Well, Chris and Agu are our engineers, and they'll get in touch with you about any other questions you have. It would be great to also, learn more about what cloud-based stuff you're building, so that we can kind of, take that into account. But yeah, I'll kind of put some closing thoughts on it, which was the way I started it, which this is, 2023 is the year of execution. The way we define success for this execution is more traction with developers. And we're not ignoring people who are not developers. The way I think of this is we have our technology and we have the movement, right? And so the way that we find more traction in the technology is with game developers. And Alistair now has come in to take the lead on, where this movement goes and how we continue to kind of kick up more and more energy and ultimately put up a lighthouse so that we can attract those people who kind of share this vision, because this is a vision that we might have been early, or I might have been early talking about, but has created this entire life of its own. Most of the investors we have on our cap table are the other companies out there that are, doing and thinking and talking and executing about this vision. So we want to be that lighthouse that kind of attracts the developers and the people who are excited about this.